The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 182 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker. It is a Christmas edition. Merry Christmas, Detroit sports realists. I'm Taylor Phillips, and I'm with my top co-host on the podcast, Ed Smith. Merry Christmas, Ed. Thanks so much for being on here again. How are you?
Merry Christmas to you, Taylor. I'm doing fine. I'm going to be even more fun, especially when I enjoy these next 2 days off from work. And also just got finished back from the day before from seeing the new Star Wars movie. Highly recommend it to anybody to see it who, if you're a fan or if you're even not a fan, go see it. It's a great movie, period.
Yep. Tonight we're going to talk about how the Red Wings did against the New Jersey Devils on Tuesday. And then I have a little Jeff Blashill news. Ed's gonna add some goaltending analytics from Prashant Iyer on Twitter. We're also going to talk about the Pistons' 3-game losing streak being snapped after barely hanging on in Miami. We'll also add some Spartans Basketball overcoming adversity at the Palace, speaking of which. Then we'll shift to football and preview the Central Michigan Chippewas Quick Lane Bowl matchup at Ford Field against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And speaking of Ford Field, the Lions will play at Ford Field Sunday at 1 against the 49ers from San Francisco. I got some information from Mike O'Hara of DetroitLions.com. But first off, the Red Wings here. I'm continuing to have this serious beef about this. Blashill starts Jimmy Howard again, like I mentioned in episode 181, and I was shocked to find it because I get it, but I get it. Mrazek can't start every game, but the problem is Blashill keeps putting Jimmy Howard in net and starting him too many times, and the biggest example that proved costly for the Red Wings was Jimmy Howard giving up 3 quick goals and getting chased by the New Jersey Devils. Paul Mary, Jordan Tutu, a former Red Wing, and Schlemko. Before Mrazek took over in net between the pipes. The Wings got on the board on the power play from Dylan Larkin, assisted by Zetterberg and Cronwall. It was 3-1 Devils after 1. The Wings would get to within 1 with Mike Green's power play goal. That's Green's second goal. I think his third, somewhere around there. And that would be it for the second period.
Maybe call that much.
Right. Third period, the Devils get one past Mrazek and in from Kalinin, but the Wings get a lucky one from Riley Shahan with that Schneider should have had. That made it 4-3, but that was it. That 3-0 lead proved costly. Howard helped them dig themselves a hole, but now with a little bit of help from Henrik Zetterberg, who got called for tripping, rightfully so. Holding rather, at 10:37. that killed a power play when it was goalless. The 3 goals were actually not that early. They came in at 12:05, 12:47, and 14:17. But Jimmy Howard still got chased. See, this is another usual mistake nowadays made by Jeff Blashill. He puts Jimmy Howard in net to start the game, and Howard has another week outing.
Are you out of your mind?
And now we have more goaltending analytics between Jimmy Howard and Peter Mrazek. And as you read my retweets on my timeline at DT2 Phillips, you'll find tweets from Prashant Iyer at Iyer_Prashant. He's the contributor to Winging It in Motown, and he's an analytics statistician in terms of Red Wings players. And he breaks down the goaltender comparison between Jimmy Howard and Peter Pan Mrazek.
Mind if I take over from this point?
Yes, please do.
All right. As you can see on Taylor's Twitter timeline as well as mine, I retweeted it some myself, courtesy of notification from Jeff Moss. It started with I guess you could say, a chart, so to speak, that Iyer had presented. It was the caption, since January 1st of 2015, here's the 5-game rolling 5 versus 5 save percentage for Peter Mrazek versus Jimmy Howard. It's been no contest this year. I guess you could say this was an analytic metric in terms of figuring out, one, true save percent, and two, in one ways, how much of a value that specific goaltender has to that team. And it's very detailed and layered out. It has the save percentage unit number on the side, and then of course throughout the bar it has the momentum, the indicator, which one is Howard, which one is Mrazek. And as you can see, if you can pinpoint from the first of this year up to now, it seems like Mrazek has been far more consistent than Howard has been. Whereas Howard might have been had good start year or two, and he was usually followed by 2 or even 3 consecutive not so good starts. Now, granted, it's not complete that Howard has been a total abject failure this year, because he has had some good starts. It's just that compared to the second half of last season that Iyer pointed out, he just hasn't been quite as good, where his Mrazek has been far, far better. Excuse me, pardon me on that one. Ooh. As you can see on that on the January 1st mark of this chart, both Mrazek and Howard are nearly even in the 5 versus 5, which is basically it's the full strength save percentage metric. That's what it is. They're both nearly even in that regard, hovering around the 0.95% margin, and then it starts to dictate from that point on. Howard gets as low as 0.89, and even slightly below that on more than one occasion. Whereas Mrazek, he has reached the 0.89 mark himself, but he's balanced it out ever since then. He hasn't been nowhere near close to that yet. It's been either 0.9 or above for him, and it's certainly showed this year on certain occasions where he had a 0.95 or 0.96 save percentage in full strength situations. Now it's at a point where his full strength save percentage metric is far better than Howard's. Now that's one indicator of an advantage that Mrazek has had, and it points to what Iyer mentioned about Mrazek has outstanding in certain categories. Another aspect, another metric say, is quality start percentage, whereas, and this is one throughout used to sort out goalies for at least 10 games played this year. Jimmy Howard ranks 23rd with 56.3%, whereas Peter Mrazek with 70.6% ranks 6th. Number of really bad starts, whereas, the quote-unquote, whereas your save percentage might have been below 85%, with a minimum of 10 games played. Peter Mrazek tied for first with 0, and Jimmy Howard, though he only has 2, some would say that's a bit of a sample size, but compared to the rest of the league, that's tied for 16. And then another one, goalies by goals saved above average minimum 10 games played. Howard a .22, ranked 25th, compared to Mrazek as a 5.30, ranked 13th. Again, another one, goalies by full strength, high danger save percentage with minimum 50 high danger shots against. Howard at .83, 50%, ranks 27th, compared to Mrazek, a full 10 spots higher at .8571. And of course, goalie by full strength adjusted save percentage. Currently, Jimmy Howard ranks 26 among goalies in the NHL, whereas Peter Mrazek, top 5, full 20 spots ahead of Jimmy Howard. There's more full strength rebound save percent, which would be another good indicator of how good your goalie can be in terms of giving up a good rebound opportunity. Howard ranks at 44th, 57.6%, whereas Mrazek ranks literally on the plus side of the half mark, 22nd at 73.7%. Another one is, believe it or not, shootout save percentage, and this is going back to 2014 now, which of course which feature a compilation of minimum 20 shots faced in that time frame. Among the 32 eligible goalies in the league, Jimmy Howard is dead last at 48.8%, whereas Peter Mrazek ranks 12th at 71.4%.
Still pretty high.
Another big indicator that points to Mrazek's favor. Again, you can go up and down with these. You can find it all on Taylor's timeline as well as now about to be mine. Mine is at Ed Smith 313, but follow Prashant Ayers at Iyer IYER _John PRASHANTH. Follow him. Look up these numbers and these statistics. Retweet it, and then feast your eyes on the burden of proof. It was in the pudding, or in this case, it's in the charts. He mentioned, again, he's not using this. He said, quote, "This isn't meant to bash Howard. You can see aside from one dip, he's been far better than he was in the second half of last season. The problem is that Mrazek has been simply outstanding. There's a couple of ways of looking at this. One, the timeshare keeps Mrazek fresh, allowing him to put up these tense numbers every night. Or two, the Wings are making a big mistake by not giving Mrazek the lion's share of the workload. I'm inclined to believe that is the latter and not the former. These are indicators to me at least, and I'm sure to you, Peter Mrazek should be named the primary starting goaltender for the Red Wings from here on out. Now, no, you don't have to start him every single game of the season because it's going to tire him out. He's not going to be useful at all come play time. But for the most part, he should be getting at least 70% of these starts going forward. Now, every once in a while, whether it be for rest, healing up, whatever, yeah, you can put him Jimmy, but that's it. At this point, he is what he is. He is a backup. So I still think he can be on any given night a good reliable backup, but still, he is a backup now at this point, unless some team out there thinks he's valuable enough that he wants to come out, gather up a trade perhaps, but still, that's neither here nor there at this present point in time. Either way, the Red Wings should be sticking primarily to Peter Mrazek from this point on. Use him as much as you can. Don't overuse him, of course, obviously, but still, he should be your starting goaltender, point blank, period.
Yeah, definitely. you don't have to start him every game, but you got to start him like most of the games, like around 70%, as you just mentioned. Mrazek pretty much shined in the playoff series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Wings lost in 7 because of their defense, not the goaltending. It's their defense. The goaltending with Mrazek has shined. The goaltending with Howard has not. If they would have either traded Howard or DFA'd him or released him or terminated him or put him on waivers or whatever, and had Thomas McCollum back up Peter Mrazek, even Thomas McCollum from the Grand Rapids Griffins would outplay Jimmy Howard statistically in the NHL.
That's something.
Yep. Justin Petak just tweeted me on Twitter and asked is Ed Smith going to be on. He is now. Yeah, I forgot to mention your name. Apologies for that. But
that's all right.
So you can follow Justin Petak at JPTac, and you tweeted back to him, currently am on right now. Good job. So thank you for the breakdown, the analytic breakdown from Prashant Iyer of that. Now we go to this other Red Wing topic. We hear from sources that Jeff Blashill, the head coach, is complaining that the referees should look after the younger players more after Dylan Larkin got roughed up. Fortunately, Dylan Larkin was okay. He returned to the ice the next few minutes. He was roughed up. I get that, but was he injured? But was he injured? No. And Jeff Blashill decides to like coddle Dylan Larkin just because he's young.
Are you out of your mind?
I'm gonna have to start. I just recently started calling Jeff Blashill because he's a shill to most of his players. That also includes Glendening, Miller, and Anderson. Just like Ken Holland is coddling them when they don't produce, when they don't perform the way they're needed to, and there's too much loyalty going on in this organization, this franchise, because of how great the past Red Wings have done, and things just keep continuing to like either decline or stay frozen at mediocrity, so to speak. And that's just not good for what used to be a winning franchise in the National Hockey League. See, first off, we mentioned that Jeff Blashill made another bad decision, a usual one, by putting in Howard to start the game, and now he's complaining about the referees that they should look after the younger stars like Dylan Larkin. I mean, I understand his point, but come on, Blash. Blashill, you got to start being more aware of what's going on, and stop coddling your players. It's a matter of any player, young or old or in between, keeping his head up. If you get roughed up, you only get hurt. But that's one thing compared to getting injured, which is a lot worse than getting roughed up. But getting roughed up is just like almost a part of the game, or whatever, or just roughing as a minor penalty in hockey at all levels. And that's okay. So the Red Wings pack their bags and head to the Central Division regions for 3 games. Saturday, the night after Christmas, they are in Nashville playing the Predators at 8 o'clock on Fox Sports Detroit Plus. The Predators stand in 6th place in the Western Conference at 40 points, 17, 11, and 6. They've won 2 in a row thus far, going into the Christmas break. Before that game, and then they head to St. Paul, Minnesota, and play the Minnesota Wild at 8 on Monday on Fox Sports Detroit. The Wild are in 4th place, a tie for 4th place at 42 points, except they're 4th place ahead of the 5th place Kings. Wild are 18, 9, and 6. The Kings are 20, 11, and 2. The Wild have won 1 in a row. The Kings have lost 2 in a row. The Wild have a plus 11 differential. Predators plus 4. Then they finish up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, against the Jets the night thereafter on Tuesday, the 29th, at 8 on Fox Sports Detroit. The Jets are in 12th place, a tie for 12th place with the Edmonton Oilers in terms of points with 32. The Winnipeg Jets have just one less regulation loss than the Oilers have. The Jets have a 15-17-2 record. The Oilers have a 15-18-2 record. But as you can see, the entire Western Conference, especially the wild card chase, is getting really close as of late.
It is getting very, very narrow. Detroit does have one of the current wild card spots at 41 points, slightly ahead of Iowa, who has 40. Ottawa, rather, who has 40, who was ahead of the recently played New Jersey Devils with 39, and it trickles down from then on that point. Red Wings, in addition to that loss, they missed out on an opportunity to gain some ground within their own division, the Atlantic Division, because the Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins both lost their respective games. So this would have been a grand opportunity for the Red Wings to either tie for or overtake first place within the division, or at least tie up with Montreal, and they just blew it. So
because of Blashill's mistake of putting Jimmy Howard in net, starting Jimmy Howard in net. Coward net.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Howard did not look good. I mean, 3 goals allowed on 6 shots. Horrible night, no matter how you look at it. So that was a bad, unfortunate part of the decision-making process for Blashill, and it cost Red Wings 2 points. Now, you hope these little things don't add up here or there whereas you could be either A, missing out on a potential playoff spot at the end of the season, B, could be missing out on the difference between either being on the road or hosting your first round series, and C, winning a division. So winning your division will be a good indicator how you want to go within the playoffs, because this is a very, very tough year conference to tread through so far, because everybody is fighting to get in. It's not inconceivable to see a team like Philadelphia who has 37 points, or even a team like Pittsburgh with 35, still find a way, if they hang around long enough, to compete and contend for one of those two wild card spots at the end of the year. So if you're the Red Wings, you got to win many games as you possibly can to avoid that conversation, avoid that bubble of possibly being left out because you didn't get the job done, or you didn't hand yourself right, or you made a bad decision starting the wrong goaltender, or had a horrible overtime session, or didn't do well in the shootout. You don't want those little mini losses add up and chip away to the point where you missed out on a good prime opportunity to either A, be in the playoffs, or B, have a good hosting spot in the playoffs, because you just didn't have enough points.
Yeah, you gotta avoid those little things too, because they can turn around, come back, and just devour you, and you should start avoiding these things, preventing these things happening by taking charge and making better decisions mentally, not only as a coach but as a player as well. So that's about it for the Red Wings. Now we shift on to the Pistons. On Tuesday, they barely hang on to beat the Miami Heat 93-92 in South Beach to extend their winning streak to 3, and then they get their 3-game streak snapped in Atlanta. A rough game because of an aborted flight delay, which is a minor excuse, not a major, but a minor excuse. But they come back only to fall short, 107-100 to the Hawks at Phillips Arena. And looking at this article by Keith Langlois, they fell 22 points down before a fourth quarter rally pulled them within 8 points with 1:52 to play. They trailed 105-97. Andre Drummond, who was fouled 9 times intentionally by the Hawks, finished 7 of 18 at the free throw line, of course. Finished with 25 points and 12 rebounds, another double-double, of course. Pistons shot under 40% before their rally, which pulled them up to 43% for the game. But I understand that this excuse of fog aborting their flight to Atlanta. If there's fog out, maybe they should not have considered flying a plane. They should just take a bus. That shouldn't be a problem, though, should it?
Well, I don't know if they would have had enough time, because you got to remember they're coming in from Miami, and I think this was I'm sure they didn't want to be too tired, because if you had left that Tuesday, they could have left. Even if you left that Tuesday, you'd still be coming in this morning via a bus. So I understand the whole choosing flight over bus ride, that method. Maybe you could have had them come in a day earlier when it wasn't so foggy out. I'm sorry, no, I think that's why they had to delay this point. But even still, you don't want to use that as an excuse, because they still played as best they possibly can. And no, it was not a night shooting-wise, both offensively and on the floor and at the free throw line. But still, like I said, they didn't let Atlanta just come out the building. This was still a single digits game at the end of it. Atlanta just made one too many runs that the Pistons could overcome.
Let me point out another thing. They're still not defending the arc, and it's still killing us.
Yeah. And also, again, after, I guess you could say, an anomaly of a night from Steve Blake, who had, 12 to 15 points on, mostly on three-point shooting against the Heat. Tonight, 1 of 6 from the bench on 6 points. So, yeah, that didn't help matters either. Only, Stanley Johnson did not get that much help to contribute his 9 points off the bench.
He did not.
The countdown is very much on to seeing when Brandon Jennings can come back officially. Because, like I said, he was in uniform. He will be just like he was in Miami. But Stan Van Gundy made note to mention that for this 3-game stretch started started Monday night against the Heat, Tuesday night against Atlanta, and of course we'll have at least one more game of such occurrence this Saturday night day after Christmas against the Celtics at the Palace. Brandon Jennings will be in uniform, more likely he will not play for the team, which means he could very well lead to something that was reported earlier around this time last week, and B was discussed upon by yours truly and you as well, Taylor. Brandon Jennings' official return date, it could very well be the December 29th outing where the Pistons will be in MSG in Madison Square Garden, the heart of New York, to take on the Knicks. So that's a stage I wouldn't mind seeing Jennings return at. For something we've stated before, many times again in the past few episodes, to give help for the bench, because this bench on most nights have been a tremendous struggle. It's one reason why the Pistons couldn't quite keep up with some of these other teams, because they needed an extra spark. They needed their bench to step up, and when some of their starters couldn't quite, or they had an off night, that's where you need your bench to help provide and help for you. They couldn't get it. They couldn't get it done. Tonight was never an example. So with Brandon Jennings coming back, now it gives you that offensive production that you were lacking for the most part this season. And when you had that on the bench, you can find a way to eventually work that into your starting lineup. But for now, it'll be very happy to see Brandon Jennings back on the floor in uniform, playing alongside his teammates, because they are so desperately needed of good quality work off the bench.
Pistons' next game is back home at the Palace of Auburn Hills, Saturday, the night after Christmas, December 26th at 7:30 against the Boston Celtics on Fox Sports Detroit at 7:30. And then on Tuesday, they play the Knicks, as you mentioned before, at 7:30. That's on Fox Sports Detroit Plus. You can listen to the games in the Detroit area on Detroit Sports 105.1. The new home of the Pistons. It's been the Pistons' new radio home for 2 seasons now. This is actually going on 2 seasons. This is the second year. And then they wrap up their 3-game homestand on Thursday on New Year's Eve against the Minnesota Timberwolves at 6 on Fox Sports Detroit Plus. Before ringing in the new year, heading over to Indiana, Bankers Life Fieldhouse at 7 o'clock, playing the arch rival Indiana Pacers on Fox Sports Detroit. Any analysis on the upcoming Celtics game at the Palace?
Well, this could be another opportunity to A, get a win, and B, make some ground, so to speak, on this potential playoff chase, because as it currently stands, Detroit does have the 8th spot in the East, but right behind them, a half game behind, are the aforementioned Boston Celtics. So this is a very pivotal game, at least in terms of standings-wise in the Eastern Conference.
By a half game.
Saturday night. So the Pistons, so this is a crucial game that Detroit needs to perform as well as they possibly can. They already got 2 wins over the Heat. They have 2 wins over the Chicago Bulls. So those can add up on when it's all said and done. But now that needs to rack up, like I mentioned with the Red Wings, Pistons need to rack up some wins as not just getting in, but having a higher playoff spot than what they have currently. Because if the playoffs start today, the Pistons will be in, but they'll most likely get smoked by LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the aim for the goal for the Pistons, yes, not just to make the playoffs, but make sure put yourself in a highly capable position where there is a slight chance where you could make it a competitive first round series, if not win. So that means you probably got to reach for that 6th seed, because if you reach that 7 or 8 seed, you probably have a very, very, very slim chance of making it a competitive series. So, not just get in, but aim for that 6th seed would be goal for the Pistons this year.
Yep. For the Knicks, they're 14-16. The Timberwolves are 11-18. So moving on to college basketball, the number 1 Michigan State Spartans play at the Palace of Auburn Hills in the Spartan clash against the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. They fall behind 50-37 at halftime. And they were playing their first game without Denzel Valentine, who underwent successful knee surgery after tearing a ligament. I still don't recall, but anyway, they come back and they beat the Grizzlies in overtime 99-93. Bryn Forbes sealed it by putting the Spartans up by 5 with a clutch 3 and finished with 32 points. Aaron Harris, who was projected to be Valentine's substitution, he had 27 points. 27 points.
Oh, man.
He really stepped up.
Yeah, that's what you call a situation of next man up. Yeah, one of your leaders is down, in this case, a big-time leader, senior leader, proverbial Big Ten Player of the Year, possible front-runner, possible National Player of the Year. He's down for injury. He's going to be down for a few times. So this is sort of situation where, hey, it sucks. You're going to be out about your main guy, but it's next man up. Time to see who else is capable enough to step in and contribute as best as they possibly can. I'm sure that it was relayed to them on multiple occasions, and it's challenged them, of course, on not only to help themselves out, but to help this team out. And it was looking dicey, very dicey. This was a game I wasn't like, you and me, I'm sure, was not expecting to be this competitive and this close.
No.
Certainly not even getting to overtime, but I guess that could speak to the factor of the not having Denzel Valentine. I think that might have factored in a bit, but I don't want to use that as a crutch, so to speak. MSU, you're the number 1 ranked team in the nation. This is, Oakland, they are where they are. They may be an okay team, a decent team, but it's nowhere near your caliber. This is a game you should have handled very easily. So, you hope they weren't too bottled up in the safe zone by having Valentine there so far this year. Now that he's gone, they might, show a little signs of a crack in the armor. You hope that's not the case if you're an MSU fan. So we'll have to see where they go from there, because it's going to be quite a while before Valentine gets back onto the floor. So MSU should still handle their business for the most part. But after seeing this, I wouldn't be surprised if they take at least one loss near the beginning, through the early portions of Big Ten Conference play.
Mm-hmm. Grizzlies dropped to 7-4 with their loss. MSU improves to 13-0, staying undefeated. They take the Christmas break, and then on the 29th, on Tuesday, they start Big Ten play in Iowa City against the Iowa Hawkeyes on BTN at 9 o'clock Eastern. And then they go to Minnesota on January 2nd, take on the Gophers, and then on the 7th, they play their first conference game at home against the Illinois Fighting Illini at either 7 or 9 p.m.
So far, it's looking like a 9 o'clock start on ESPN.
So be it. Looks like we're done covering the Spartans. Good luck to them in the Big Ten Conference this year. Valentine should be back like 2.5 more weeks. like we said, it's a minor injury, not major. The Michigan Wolverines, may I add, took pretty good care of Bryant 96-60 at Chrysler Center, as seen on BTN a few hours ago. They take their Christmas break, and then on the 30th this December at 3 o'clock, they start their Big Ten Conference season on the road at Illinois against the Illini. And then they return home to play the Penn State Nittany Lions on January 2nd at noon. That is also on BTN. The Illinois game is on ESPN2 for the Maize and Blue. And then it's back on the road at Nebraska and back home against Rutgers and Penn State and Indiana, and then against Michigan State. But we could go on and on, but let's move on.
Michigan will have, I will note, Michigan will have two very tough early tests to prove their worth in this conference, how they stack out with the rest of this conference, because even though one is on the road, one is at home, you're dealing with a top-ranked Purdue squad who's only 12-1, only has one loss this year, and then followed that up by a currently top 5-ranked Maryland squad who also only has one loss. So not so easy back-to-back games for the Wolverines. We'll have to see how they factor in. You would hope to try to split at least one, but it may not be in the cards. So like Karis LeVert by himself just won't be able to get it done. You're going to need more help, guys, and production from guys like Derek Walton, Zach Irvin, Duncan Robinson, and so on and so forth to have a chance in either of those games.
All right, with that all that out of the way, it's time for some college football bowl action. The school I graduated from recently will have its football team back in action at Ford Field in the Quick Lane Bowl, the Central Michigan Chippewas against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And CMUChippewas.com has the Quick Lane Bowl Central, including the preview by Andy Snedden of CMUChippewas.com. CMU is 7-5. Minnesota is 5-7. CMU won 5 of its last 6, all against Mid-American Conference opponents after losing to Michigan State, Oklahoma State, and Syracuse. And for Minnesota, they lost 23-17 to number 2 TCU. 5 of their 7 losses came to ranked teams. The lone common opponent is Kent State. CMU defeated the Golden Flashes 27-14 on the road to clinch bowl eligibility. Gophers beat Kent State 10-7 at home. So, looking at the matchup here, it favors Central Michigan by like 7 or 10 points. But dual threat quarterback Mitch Leidner is a guy to watch. He leads the offense at ranked 12th in the Big Ten with 357.1 yards per game. Leidner has completed 57.8% of his passes for 2,478 yards and 13 touchdowns this year, and he threw 10 interceptions going into the bowl game. He is Minnesota's third leading rusher with 251 yards and 5 touchdowns. Freshman Shannon Brooks averages 6.2 yards per carry and leads the Gophers with 644 yards rushing. KJ May with 65 catches for 706 yards and 4 touchdowns is Leidner's top target. Cooper Rush for CMU, the quarterback, has 3,703 yards passing, a single season record, which ranks 10th nationally. He's about to be NFL bound. He's a senior, I think. Let me see here. No, he's a junior. He still could declare for the NFL draft like junior defensive tackle that Robert Condici did just recently. But back to the Chippewas. Rush also ranks 6th in the country in completions per game, 25.75. 12th in completion percentage, 67.2%. 11 in passing yards per game, 308.6, and 20th in touchdown passes with 25. The defense for the Chippewas has been led by Kayvon Frazier and Blake Serpa. The Chips lead the MAC in total defense, allowing just 328.2 yards per game, and have surrendered just 190.5 yards per game through the air, which also leads the MAC. So I expect CMU to at least take good care of Minnesota, like 35-13. Not quite that big of a rout, but I think the Chippewas will do just fine. To provide just enough offense and defense to get the job done. So Ed, falling asleep there. Yep.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I heard some
detail.
Yep. I heard a little snoring there, but yep. Anyway, we move on. Speaking of football, we move on to the Lions. The Lions play the 49ers at Ford Field, speaking of which, Sunday at 1. Lions are 5-9, 49ers are 4-10. The 49ers will be close to Super Bowl 50 this year, but only because it's their home field, Levi Stadium. But the history shows that from 2011 to 2013, they finished 13-3, 11-4-1, and 12-4, and reached the NFC Championship all 3 seasons because of Jim Harbaugh before he departed to Michigan.
And as a Wolverine fan, I like to say thank you to Ted York on that one.
Yep. How the 49ers got to 4-10, Skidsville. From Mike O'Hara of DetroitLions.com, Scouting Report, San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers were 7-4 and in contention for a fourth straight playoff appearance when the wheels came off. They lost 4 straight before ending the season with a win over Arizona to finish 8-8. That was last year. The 49ers now have not won 2 straight games at any point this season. Since their 20-3 win at home over the Minnesota Vikings in the season opener, their other 3 victories are by 6 points or fewer: 25-20 over the Ravens, 17-16 over the Atlanta Falcons, Baltimore Ravens, and 26-20 in overtime over the Chicago Bears. Colin Kaepernick started the previous 47 regular season games in favor of Blaine Gabbert. Kaepernick was replaced by Blaine Gabbert in Game 9 of San Francisco's season. And that's because Kaepernick regressed badly. When he was benched, the 49ers had a 2-6 record and had failed to score a touchdown in Kaepernick's last 2 starts. 20-3 loss at home against the Seahawks and 27-6 in St. Louis to the Rams. Kaepernick's 8-game passing statistics are 59.0% in completion ratio, a completion rate, 6 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, a 78.5 passer rating, and 28 sacks allowed. by the defense and Kaepernick himself. He still showed flashes of his running ability, 256 yards, 5.7 yards per run, and 1 touchdown on the quarterback keeper. He was put on season-ending injured reserve on November 21st with what has been reported as an injury to his left shoulder that Kaepernick had played over. Gabbert was drafted 10th overall in 2011 out of Missouri. He was traded to the 49ers in 2014 for a 6th-round draft pick. He posted a 5-22 record in 3 seasons, throwing 22 touchdowns, 24 interceptions, a complete rate of 53.3%, and a completion rate, and a passer rating of 66.4. He has fared somewhat better in San Francisco. In 6 starts, he has 7 touchdown passes against 6 interceptions, career highs for completion percentage 62.4 and passer rating 82.8, and a 2-4 record. And that's about it. So, Ed, what are your thoughts? How do you match the Lions and 49ers up?
Well, quite frankly, this is a game between 2 highly underachieving teams. One that had showed promise last year. The other was, quite frankly, has been a shell of his recent former glory, so to speak. It'll be easy to talk about fact, but when you look at this having the whole entire team, you can't stay there with a straight face and tell me it didn't play a factor at all. Colin Kaepernick was terrible this year. He's worse this year than I believe Matthew Stafford was. What you would say 2013, that was the year that Shorts was fired. So it's approaching that levels of ineptitude from Kaepernick. And this is a guy who, it's a saving grace. He still had his athleticism, but it wasn't. I mean, if you're so bad, you got to be best in favor of Blake Gabbert. My God. The defense, it's starting to pick up its stride. It's been consistent in keeping the running game stout, so we'll see what Carlos Hyde can do. Granted, they're not going up against, like, say, another Todd Gurley again, but surely it'll be, still a matchup to look out for, because if they can always keep the running game stifled, then it'll allow them to pin their ears back on passing situations and fix whatever scheme they can fix. Matthew Stafford, we can't say much negatively about what he's had. In my view, a very good, fair, decent. Yeah, he's had a pretty good season so far. If you were to make a list of top 3 to 5 things of what went wrong with his Lions season, Matthew Stafford, he would not be at the top of the list. You can't fault him, is what I'm trying to say here. For why this team is 5-9 right now, because it's not his fault. He's playing as best as he possibly can, whether it be a bad offensive line, a rather unproductive running game, but now that's starting to gain some steam rather. As to where this team could happen, again, I mentioned it before. They're in a bit of a purgatory here. They're in limbo, so to speak. They're out of playoff contention. They're 5-9, and they're not in a division where it would still, quote unquote, be in the race. But they're also in a spot where if they keep on winning enough games, it would knock them out of not just the top 10, maybe even the top 15, so to speak. And you always don't want to have yourself in a position to draft the best player available. And I'm not sure how much of those prospects would be available if the Lions were, say, at 16th or 17th, as opposed to 11, 12, 13, 14 for 15. So it would be nice to see them lose these last 2 games, but they're going up against some bad teams. This will be the worst, the least impressive of the two remaining teams they have left, and it is the home finale of the regular season, so I expect the crowd to be in full support of their team. So I can see the Lions, they're favored by 10. I can see them winning probably close to that margin. I would say Detroit. I'll go Detroit 34, San Francisco Francisco 21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the way the Lions they've been playing and knowing how bad San Francisco has been, it's even I will be surprised to see the Lions lose this game. That's saying something.
Yep. Yeah, the Lions put up 35, I think, 38.
Yeah, put up 35 on the Saints. Now their defense, they should not get too complacent like in this one, like they did against the Saints, because that allowed New Orleans to catch up, and you can never do that, even though Drew Brees was playing on a very hurt foot. I believe it was a plantar.
Almost like Aaron Rodgers.
Almost like what you would see in baseball with Albert Pujols. That was similar to the type of injury that Drew Brees was holding, a plantar fasciitis.
Almost like Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, kind of, so to speak, but Schilling's was more the ankle. This was directly with the bottom of the foot. Either way, even on a hurt foot, Brees was still able to bring his team within one possession. So now, Colin Kaepernick, he's no Drew Brees, but he's, now I may be wrong. I don't know if he got the starting job back, but if they're facing Blaine Gabbert, okay, the Lions should be okay there. But if they're facing Kaepernick, just something to look out for. But even still, the Lions should win this game.
All right. Well, hey, Ed, we haven't done 5 questions in a long time. I've got 5 questions to ask you.
All right. Let it rip.
And to the audience as well.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1. When is Jeff Blashill going to man up and start making better decisions and stop coddling his players?
I would like to be optimistic and say sometime in January, but part of me thinks he's going to wait till after the All-Star break, believe it or not, before he really buckles down, so to speak, in terms of making permanent decisions regarding certain spots on this team for the rest of the season. So my best bet would say after the All-Star break in February.
Question number 2. When Brandon Jennings returns, how many points will the Pistons average per game?
Well, they're doing a good job as is. They're scoring at least, 90 or so the past few games. So with Jennings coming back, sparking hopefully a good production off the bench, you can see that average bump up to say 5 points more. So I would say at least 96, 97 points a game. No worse than that. They could teeter around towards 100 if need be. They're not a Golden State caliber offense, but they still have some good shooters, good scorers, i.e. Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond, respectively.
They could still reach to about 110.
They could still at least get close to that 100 range, do no worse than 96, 97, and rely on just good defense from Drummond to help keep the other team from not racking up too many points on them. So I expect I could see close to that 100, but no, close to maybe at least 100, maybe 101, 102, but no worse than 96 or 97 points per game with the return of Brandon Jennings.
All right. Question number 3. Will the Spartans keep overcoming adversity as they head into the Big Ten Conference season?
Well, if you mean will they go unbeaten, I say no, because it's very, and that's not to disparage them, I'm just saying it's really, really, really hard to go unbeaten. And you're in the conference now where you got teams like Ohio State, you got teams like Purdue, and now with the recent additions to more teams, more programs rather. Now you have Maryland, and Maryland, of course, has been a very stout basketball program over the past few years. So now you got them to deal with 2 times in the season, or maybe once, I'm not sure, but still, you got them in their conference, and now you got to play with them. So I could still see them maintaining a very strong record. They'll probably lose no more than 3 or 4 games, and it would still give them a good enough resume to contend for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament this spring. So if you mean will they go undefeated, I'd say no, but they would still have a very, very, very good productive regular season under Tom Izzo. as per the course.
Yeah, I don't really expect them to go undefeated the entire season. They'll still.
Especially now with the Denzel Valentine injury. So
yeah, that's what I meant.
I wouldn't be surprised if they lose at least a game during his absence. It would not surprise me at all.
Good answer. Question number 4: who do you think will win the Quick Lane Bowl? The Central Michigan Chippewas or the Minnesota Golden Gophers?
Sorry to go against your Chips, Taylor, but I say Minnesota. I think they're a good enough team of the way they played in some of their games this season, a little further than what they did to the Wolverines. That's a game, quite frankly, they should have won. Okay, they had nobody but themselves to blame for how they lost that game. They should have won that game hands down. So knowing that their potential of pulling off that type of game, I could see it, ending not quite in a good result for your Chips. Sorry, Taylor.
Well, as I predicted earlier, I predicted the Chips to finish with a 35-13 victory. Their defense has been solid. You got to keep in mind of that. And Cooper Rush has been racking up the yards and the scores. And if you think about that, you'll see what the Chippewas can do. I'm not trying to be a homer here, but the stats are there.
That zone read of Minnesota just ate up was doing some good numbers on Michigan, so I could see them doing some similar, if not even better, than what they do to CMU. So I could see them scoring at least 28 to 31 points here in this type of scenario. So I could see them doing that, and that'll be more than enough for them to win.
Absolutely, yeah, good point. And finally, question number 5. This is a funny one. Do we expect Kelly Stafford to keep being annoying as she still is right now?
Yes. Well, unequivocally, 100%, 1,000%, yes.
Yep. She's probably gonna stick up for Matthew Stafford and keep bashing the fans because of the.
I understand trying to be as supportive to your spouse as possible. I get that, but when you do it to a point where you come off as belittling and arrogant and pompous, especially to a fan base such as this has been long suffering, has been as tortured as we have been. The last thing we need to hear is someone thumbing their nose down as just saying we need to be better fans. Like, chick, you don't even know the half of what this city, what this fan base has been through over the past almost 60 years, okay? So don't even start.
That's right. Don't even start. Quit being a bitch. Sorry for the insulting. Sorry.
I was gonna say don't open up this can of worms because you don't know what kind of hornet's nest you'll be stepping into. But well, Taylor, I think you just opened up the can of worms yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that. No offense, Kelly, but stop being that way, please. Anyway, that's gonna wrap up.
On that note.
Yeah. On that note, that's gonna wrap up the Christmas edition of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker, episode 182. Merry Christmas, Ed. We will talk again on Monday at midnight after the Chips cream the Gophers. Make sure they watch that zone read. It's going to be it may be an interesting matchup in between a win and a loss. Who knows, right? But fire up, Chips.
Yeah, best of luck to your team, and Merry Christmas to you, Taylor, and everybody else that's listening. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have a Happy New Year. We'll get to that eventually next week, but still, enjoy your Christmas break, lay off the eggnog, enjoy your gifts, time, the family, friends, etc., etc. Merry Christmas to all, good night.
Yeah, lay off of the sugar, too. And for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appetit.